Hello, welcome to 113 Racing. My name is Nate. I've been posting videos for sort of just over 12 months now, so I thought it was high time that I give an update for the 3 or 4 new subscribers who may not know what's going on here. I mean, they could go back and watch the old videos, but I think I'd rather be waterboarded than watch my old videos. So, quick update, what's going on here? So this is a Peugeot 206. Doesn't look like it at the moment because it's in the process of being built into a race car. And there's many different mini projects going on it because I can't stay motivated on one thing for more than about 35 seconds. So there's not a lot been done to it up the front here. Engine is completely stock. It's still got the stock subframe and suspension in it, aside from the adjustable top plates and the gas coilovers up under there. We're in the process of doing the brakes, so the brake master and the ABS pump are coming out. Most of the work has been fabrication based and it's happened on the inside of the car. So we've got the roll cages all done, modified the dash to fit around it. We've got a sat shift short shifter. I have mounted a Sparco circuit full containment seat. Steering column, we've got a quick release, a Boss and an OMP wheel on there. We're just putting in the Tilton pedal box as part of the braking system. That's mostly it. I've got other bits and pieces lying around to go on the car. But aside from that, I'm calling it the world's cheapest race car. Now, that's a bit confusing to some people because they're looking at the price of these parts and going, well, no, it's not. But what I mean by world's cheapest race car, I mean that I haven't spent a cent on this car. The only thing that has gone into this car is time. As you can see by all the junk around me, I have 206 parts just everywhere. Whenever I need parts for this car, I basically buy a whole car and then I strip it. Whenever I need money for this car, I'll sell something. I also have other side gigs going on. So you can see by the welders, I've got the TIG under that cover there. I've got a tube bender there for CDS or chromoly or any other sort of roll cage tubing. So whenever I need money, I just side hustle. So I just spend a weekend earning, extra cash to put into this. So this hasn't cost me money, it's cost me time. Now it's a bit ambiguous because obviously if I hadn't been putting the money into this that I made from my time, I would have more money. So it has cost money in that sense. But my goal of this series is to show that anyone can do this if you've got enough space, really, because all you need to put into it is time and a little bit of this up here, and I don't have a lot of this up here. So if I can do this, you can do this. And that's sort of the main thing that I want people to take away from this video series, although it seems to just be Peugeot enthusiasts too. I love what I'm doing. So anyway, introductions aside, what have we got going on today? Continuing with the brakes. You might be able to hear in the background we're draining the fuel out of the car currently because I have decided to drop the tank and it's just siphoning itself out there very, very, very slowly, which is why I can't do any grinding or welding at the moment because I don't like being blown up. So, although that's a myth, petrol doesn't actually blow up when it's free flowing like that. It just catches fire and it's really, 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 really difficult to put out. So, whatever. So in the meantime, I think what I might get going on with is the bracket for mounting the reservoirs. Now, as you will have seen previously, which is in the start of this video, I've ran that line up through there, and that's going to be the highest point of my braking system. So as long as I can get the reservoirs higher than that, I shouldn't have a problem with bleeding it. If I do have a problem with bleeding it, the reservoirs are going to be just behind the dash there. I can just simply take a bolt out of it and lift the reservoir up. However, if I can avoid that, I will. So I've got those tabs there, as I mentioned earlier, and I've got a bit of 1mm, and I'm going to start cutting and fabricating because that's what we do around here. Yeah, let's do it. All right, I know you guys prefer watching work than talking about work, but this is kind of hard to film. It's not actually the easiest thing to do either. So bending up my rear brake line here. So I obviously used the straightener and straightened it out of the coil. I got a piece of old line and made up this. This is the piece that goes through the floor and then back over to the chassis rail. I made sure that that fit in, and then I marked on here where it started so I could replicate it so that I know that it's going to land in exactly the right spot. I've pre-installed a grommet where it goes through the floor so I can poke that in. I made sure the grommet fits before I poked it in there. This piece here is a little bit long. I've still got to cut him off, put the flare on, and then I need to work out the other end. So I'm going up and over the fuel tank. So the fuel tank finally finished draining and it's out. So while I'm up under there, as I mentioned earlier, I need to clean up where all the welding was done. I went and got my rubberized coating out, and it had sort of solidified in the nozzle and was garbage. So I need to buy another can of that, but I am broke and can't afford it. So it'll have to wait. So the fuel tank will have to stay out for a few weeks until I can get a hold of that. But anyway, I'm going to flare this line and fit it. I took the washer bottle out to do that fitting up, so I got rid of all this extra insulation. Found a few grommets to plug a few holes. I've still got a few more holes I need to cover up. I'm hoping that my Haltech loom will fill that hole. I don't know what I'm going to do about that fire over there or that fire there. I might just glue some thin aluminium sheet over them. They need to be sealed up. But anyway, what I'm showing you is I got that T-piece in there, and I used just a normal spring. I had to sort of make it a bit funky because there's a flange there that sticks out, but that's nice and solid. It's not going to rub there now. So that is all done. I haven't actually yet put it back onto the calipers because I have spent the better part of a day looking for my calipers. So obviously there's a pair on here, but I don't know the history of these or anything about them. I did keep the calipers off my old car because I knew that they were good, but what I don't know is where I put them. So I spent the whole day walking around looking for them, but then I get distracted looking for something else, and then I go and forget what I was looking for and find other things. So I've kind of, doesn't look like it, but I've actually tidied up. So half those boxes now are empty, apart from that one there, which I haven't touched yet. It's my painting shit. And I found a lot more nuts and bolts, so that nuts and bolts one's overflowing now. But anyway, I digress. I'm procrastinating. Finish this and get it done, because I'm going to go inside and start cooking soon. So chop, get to it. All right, now that I've done everything I can think of to avoid doing this bracket, including mowing the lawn and sorting my old socks, we'll move on to it. Funnily enough, my mower actually didn't mind that old fuel that I pulled out of here, so that's why you buy a Honda, even if it's a $200 Honda off Marketplace. So I'm going to get some measurements on this, and we'll get going on it. I haven't quite finished the brake lines yet. I've got that main line in. I just need to do the little oobly-boo bits on the axle. So what do I want? 1 mil. Look, right there. Heaps of it. I'll set you up and we'll get on it. I also did clean up and then make an entirely new mess, in case you're wondering. But yeah, you know, it always looks like this. So let's do it. All right, this is what I've come up with. It's a bit of a funky shape and it's pretty crappy looking. So the tabs are on a bit of a different plane, as you can see, and they come down on a weird angle. And I realized halfway through that I need the reservoirs to sit relatively level, because that's where the level line on them is. So I have bent this up and it works. I'll give it a bit of a panel beat to try and knock this out of it. I do like the kind of 3D shape to it because it gives it a little bit more strength. It's going to have a bit of weight on it, so it's going to be a little bit floppy. So I have marked on here where I'm going to put a bracket. I originally had this on there, but it's, as you can tell, it's way too short. It needs to be 90 mil. This was only 45. So I cut that off, and I'll make up a bracket that comes back to a piece of steel in behind the dash, which is 90 mil. I'll TIG that on there, and then I might actually also cut another piece of this, which runs maybe down this side like a rib, and I might just tack that on, cut to that profile just to stop it from wanting to flop around. I don't know if that's going to help or not. A flange along the bottom would be nice, or actually a flange all the way around would be nice, but it's a hell of a lot of work. No one's ever going to see this. It's going to be painted black. It's going to be behind the dash. So I could spend a lot of time making this look nice, but you've got to choose your battles. Why bother? Just smash something in there and get it done. So cut this, get the welder out. Let's go. I don't know. Again, you're out of focus today. I don't know why. My camera just decides every now and then that it doesn't like you people. And it wants to. Yeah. So anyway. Oh, by the way, I found actual 12.9 cap head screws. So that was good. I bought a bunch of them. They were cheap too. All right. Let's do it. Okay, so I haven't talked much about what I'm doing here because I'm not 100% confident in what I'm doing, and I don't want to give everyone the wrong advice. But I'll just touch a bit on my experience because I have had a few questions from guys that have never done this before about what I'm doing and about my ability to be able to do it. So this is my first time using this kit. I bought it a few years back, and it was mainly I bought it for doing repairs. I did a bit of research about what is the best kit for using basically on the car, because these tube nuts here on the 206s especially can get a bit seized up in the rubber lines, and you can strip them and destroy them. So I kind of wanted something that I could use on the car. This one came highly recommended. It is the Calvan. It's the there's a couple of different ones. This is the inline flare tool kit, part number 165. And it works great. Obviously, I haven't actually tested these fittings yet. I have done a repair in the past and it worked. I did it on the car. So it's just this block which goes on, and then the actual fitting itself. So essentially, you only need that much brake line exposed to be able to get, the tool in there. So if you've got a bend right here, or like the body is right there, that's all you need, and that's probably one of the shortest runs of any flare tool kit, and then obviously you need the space to put the anvil on. So very compact. It works great. I've just been doing double flares the whole time, so it's the bubble one. It doesn't look quite as nice as the factory flare, but I mean it's pretty good. One thing from my research that I have discovered is that putting a chamfer on the end of your lines is probably more important than some people give credit to. So this toolkit comes with a deburr tool for deburring the insides for getting your dags off, because you don't want iron filings in your brakes if you can help it. It's not a huge deal if they're in there, but you don't want it. But then actually chamfering the outside edge of your chamfering the outside edge of your line. I've just got a file, and I just run through it with the file and just put a chamfer on it. It helps it slide on this little guy, on this little mandrel, and also then the outside corner of your tube becomes the inside corner of your tube, so you kind of want to maximize that flow. Don't have a hard edge there or anything like that. Another thing is people are concerned about the fact that one line is a lot longer than the other on the car. So for instance, where my masters are here, I've got one line that runs like up and over and down and back around to that wheel, but then the other one just goes straight there to that wheel. Is that an issue? No, it's not a garden hose where the fluid has to flow all the way through. Obviously, you know that the longer your garden hose is, the more time it takes for the fluid to get out the end of it. Your brake system is always full of fluid. All you're doing when you press the pedal is building pressure. So if you were to measure it in millionths of a second, there probably is a difference between, say, that line and that line, between how long it takes to build pressure, because each molecule has to crash into the next one. There's probably an infinitesimally small amount of time difference in a shorter line than a longer line. It's not something that's going to affect the driving of the vehicle at all. You're moving, the same amount of fluid is moving through both sides because both pistons are moving at the same rate. Well, there's probably a tiny bit of difference in knockback from left to right. So one piston might be moving, 1.5 millimeters, and I might be moving 1.65 millimeters. But again, infinitesimally small differences between left and right with different size lines. You'll never notice it. So as long as you don't have like a ridiculous, like 3.5 meters of leftover, Bundy tube coiled up under the dash, you're not going to have an issue. Yeah, so this is the last line that I need to make. I need to put a little whoop whoop in it to get up and around some flanges that are under the back. I'm just going to put it back on with the stock lines. I'm out of time today. I had an hour to come out here and quickly finish this, so I'll just button everything back up to the rubber lines. Once I get my bracket finished and the reservoir's mounted, I'll probably just run some cheap, I got some cheap brake fluid there. I'll probably just chuck that in there just to run it through the lines, flush out any contaminants, iron filings or anything like that that have gotten in the tube, and then I'll put my racing stuff in once I've got my braided lines and everything fitted. And hopefully the fluid is a different color so that I can tell when the junk is gone and I'm onto the good stuff, because what fluid's in the reservoir really doesn't matter, because it doesn't really move much out of the reservoir. It's the fluid that's in the end of the line and the caliper which makes the main difference, because the fluid's really just going over and back in the line when it presses the piston on the caliper. There's not a lot of actual flow through the system, so the fluid that's in the caliper, most of it will stay there for years and years and years, and you'll only get a little tiny bit which will get back up into the reservoir, and only tiny bit from the reservoir will ever get down into the piston. So that's why it's a good idea if you're putting new fluid in your brakes, is to actually push it through from the caliper end into your reservoir. That way any residual garbage fluid is in the reservoir, out of harm's way. But yeah, we'll be fine. As long as you don't have a lot of garbage fluid in there, you'll be fine. As long as the majority of it is good stuff, your boiling point will remain high. You won't get any cavitation in your fluid, so we'll be good, hopefully. Let's do it. All right. Welcome back. All right. I've changed this morning. I'm not an entirely different person, but I've changed. I've managed to eke out an hour's worth of time this afternoon, so I've just been quickly nibbling away at more stuff here. So I got those rear lines that I was making in. This is that file there. That's the main line coming through from the front there. I need to do a little bit more cable management because it's definitely going to rattle above the fuel tank, and apart from it being annoying, you don't want your brake lines rattling because they're quite soft and they'll wear through quite quickly. So I need to do that. I've got a few of the factory cable management clips which worked for the factory, so they'll work for me. These ones go on a stud. Got a couple of these ones here that actually like a canoe clip
This one's obviously very broken, but anyway, whether I use them or them, I don't know. I will work that out at a later date. I put the braided lines on there, just because. So these are a bit of a weird setup because the trailing arm pivots up there. You've got a hard line that comes out of the caliper, goes up to that bracket there, that shiny bracket, and that bracket actually moves. It's actually attached to the trailing arm, goes up and down. So then your flex line is between there, and it just sort of twists a little bit. That's where they are. They're not a great thing. They're very, very difficult to get up in there, but they are done. The reason I decided to put the braided lines on now, even though I said I wasn't, was because I was adjusting the spring clips to adapt my new lines to the rubber lines because my tube nuts were shorter. I needed to squash these, but then I remembered that the hell lines actually go through this bracket, and you need to, expand your spring clips. So I'm like, why am I making it work for the rubber lines, which I'm just going to take off next week? So I'll put these on. This one here, you can tell it's still loose. I still need to adjust this spring clip. I really don't like the way the hell lines do this. I've used hell on all my cars and they all do this, and it's just a bit weird. I don't like the routing of them. It's just how they are. I might actually get a rubber insulated P-clip and actually P-clip that up there to hold it. That might be the better way of going about it than trying to use these spring clips. I don't know. But anyway, that is done. Yeah, actually I never actually tightened the suspension down, so remind me to do that. And then I got the rear lines all out on the ground. I'm just removing the remainder of the ABS pump now. This stud here gave me some troubles. I had the rattle gun on assemble instead of destruction, and it just stripped it. So I had to get the universal bolt extractor out. I've still got one just down there. I had to get the headlight out, so I'll get that out. And then once I get my bracket done and full of fluid, that's the brakes done, aside from fitting the pads and rotors. So
All right, all the hard lines done, all the flex lines done, brackets mounted. I could fill it with fluid and bleed it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to, as much as I would love to see if the system holds fluid or not. I'm not 100% sure about any of this down here. I also need to put in a clutch master to the factory one I don't think will work. But yeah, it's getting these push rods set to length down here. Adjusting them in the car is difficult, and once they're full of fluid, I can't obviously take them out and spin them. It's much easier to undo those bolts from there and spin the entire master cylinder to adjust the length of those push rods. They need to be set pretty well where they need to be so that bias bar works properly. If you've got them, too much of an uneven length, it doesn't work properly. So I'm not 100% sure on that. Obviously, I can adjust it later, but once it's full of fluid, it becomes a hassle. So I'm just going to leave it until I'm a bit more certain. Am I going to get more certain? I don't know. I probably just need to send it. I don't even know who I can ask about that. So yeah, but anyway, I'll procrastinate on that for another week. Bracket is done. Welded some captive nuts on the back and painted it black. Like I said, you can't actually see it in there. The clutch goes on there. I just need to cut the pipes and put them on, do up some, I'll put some clamps on so they don't come off. But that's it. So, can an idiot install brakes? Yes, I guess. They're installed. They might not work. I might die. I don't know. You don't know. Stick around if you want to find out, I suppose. But anyway, I need to get something out. So that's going to be it for this video. If you want to find out what happens next, hang around. I might do this paint, even though it looks much better now that it's dirty. I might just leave it like that. Can't tell how crap it is. It's fine for me. So bye.